Are you trying to make the best frozen French fries? I'm Katie Rosenhaus with Chowhound, and I'm here to help you elevate your French fry game and keep you from doing it all wrong. Frozen French fries are a great convenience item, especially on a busy weeknight. You want a great dinner on the table in minutes. Frozen French fries are going to help you do that. But how are you making the best frozen French fries? It's by using your oven. So today I'm not going to be using a fryer or an air fryer. There's not going to be a ton of oil floating around my kitchen. All I'm going to do is pop these into the oven for the easiest, most delicious French fries you'll ever have. So first things first, what you might be doing wrong when it comes to frozen French fries is if you are baking them in the oven by not preheating your pan. Now I have my oven preheating to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and I've got a rimmed baking sheet inside heating up, ready to go. So that's going to give me that crisp exterior right off the bat. It's going to get my fries moving and cooking as quickly as possible. So that's going to give us the best result. Now I'm using two kinds of French fries today. I've got shoestring fries, I've got hand-cut fries. The baking time may vary slightly based on the thickness of your fries, but any frozen French fries that you love will work great with this method. So the first things first, you want to make sure your frozen French fries are frozen. You want them to be straight out of the freezer. You don't want to thaw them at all. We want them as frozen as possible. So I'm even going to keep these in the freezer as I'm working, just to make sure they're really super cold, as I take you through the other key tips when it comes to baking the best French fries. So I'm working with a few spices and seasonings today. So when it comes to baking my French fries, before they go in the oven, I want to season them up just a bit. And to do that, obviously I'm going to start with olive oil. Now, it's so important. Olive oil is going to help us brown our fries nicely in the oven. It's going to help them crisp up really well, but it's also going to give a little bit of richness and flavor that we sort of miss by not frying the French fries. So not a greasy fry, but a fry that's got a little something going on. It's going to help our salt and our seasoning stick. So super important to have a little bit of olive oil going on, not a ton, but just a little bit. I'm also going to be working with a little bit of vinegar. Now vinegar is kind of a secret ingredient here. It's going to give us a little bit of tanginess that I love on my fries. You can think like fish and chips. That little bit of that vinegar, that acidity is just going to wake up our flavors nicely and just like bring our fries to the next level, which is amazing. But it's also going to help our fries hold together. It helps the pectin in our fries just kind of firm up and stiffen up, and it's going to keep our fries from falling apart as we toss them in the oven as we bake. I've also got pepper, I've got paprika, I've got a little bit of garlic powder, and of course I have kosher salts. Now these things are just going to season our fries really nicely. The type of spices and seasonings is totally up to you. If you like spicy, go for a little bit of cayenne. If you like smoked paprika versus standard paprika, anything that you want is great for your fries. So I'm going to start with my shoestring fries today, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop them into the bowl and just season them up before I get them into the oven. And I do have the oven preheated to 375 degrees. Now you'll notice on the package of your frozen French fries, you might see on the back to say to preheat the oven to 425 or 450 depending on the brand that you're working with. Mine says 425. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to start by baking our fries low and slow-ish. At 375, that's going to keep our interior really fluffy, really creamy, really tender. And then we're going to switch to really extra high heat just to crisp them up for that beautiful golden brown crisp exterior. So I've got a baking sheet preheating. It's a rimmed baking sheet. I'm just using something like this. I've got this in my oven as it's preheating. You can line it if you want to for easy cleanup. Parchment paper will work nicely. Tinfoil is fine. But because we're using a high heat and I don't want whatever I'm baking with, like parchment, to burn, which it does over 450 degrees, I'm just going to leave my baking sheet as is. Just work with a clean baking sheet and you'll be good to go. All right, so before I grab my frozen French fries out of the freezer, I just want to get my seasonings ready to go. I'm going to get them all in the bowl and ready, and then all we have to do is toss, get it right on that extra hot baking sheet, and it'll start crisping up really nicely right off the bat. So I'm using about half the bag of French fries, which is going to equal about one baking sheet without over crowning it, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I'm going to start with about maybe a tablespoon or two of olive oil, depending on how much oil you like. You don't need much when you're baking French fries. If you do like that really sort of like classic French fry, flavor and texture with a little bit extra oil, you can even up that a little bit, but a tablespoon or two is plenty. And I'm just going to break that up a bit with about a teaspoon of vinegar. And I'm going to give that a mix, just so it combines a little bit. All right, so I've got some kosher salts. You want to be pretty generous. And we are going to add some after they come out of the oven as well, so don't worry if you didn't add enough the first time. I've got some garlic powder. I've got some paprika and a little bit of black pepper. Now you can go as heavy or as light on the seasonings as you like. You can skip the seasonings entirely if you prefer. That's totally up to you. All right, so I'm gonna give that one more whisk. And that looks a little thick to me. I'm just gonna add a little bit more olive oil, just a touch. And now I'm gonna grab my French fries and a pair of tongs. Now you want to work quickly. We don't want these French fries to thaw. All I want to do is toss them with my seasonings and get them right onto that nice hot pan. Give it a toss as best you can. Now if it seems dry, if you feel like it's not coating as much as it should, you can always add an extra drizzle of olive oil. But again, it doesn't need much when you're baking. These are sort of like ready to go without much oil at all. Add a little extra. Just a drizzle. Just a drizzle. Just so it feels coated. All right, so let's grab that nice hot pan. I'm just gonna put down an upside down pan here so it won't be too hot on our surface. So this pan has been preheating while my oven preheated. And I'm just gonna get my fries on there. You can hear that sizzle right off the bat. And just make sure they're in an even layer. If your fries overcrowd the pan or if they're stacked on top of each other, they're gonna steam instead of crisp up. All right, right back in the oven at 375. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes. That's about half the time we're gonna need to bake our fries. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull them out and show you what they look like. All right, so we've got fries. So you can see they're starting to soften up, right? If I look at them, they're sort of set throughout. They're dry on the surface. They're soft, they're squidgy. They're kind of almost cooked all the way through, but now is the time that we're gonna crisp them up. Now what I'm gonna do before I start tossing these around, I'm gonna raise the heat of my oven to 475 degrees. Before I put them back in the oven though, I'm gonna give my fries a little bit of a toss just to move them around and make sure that they're getting browned really evenly. And you can see the magic of that vinegar working. Now without the vinegar, you might notice that your fries will start to break apart at this point, especially if you're working with thinner fries. But you can see the vinegar kind of really holds them together. It sort of dries out the surface and firms them up a bit, so they almost get like a little Gumby-like. It's a 90s reference. So that's a really good way to sort of firm up the texture of your fries nicely. So as my oven is preheating, don't wait for it to get to 475. We're getting these right back in. And now I'm just gonna let them go. I'm gonna make sure that I don't open my oven as they're cooking. I didn't open them the first time around, and I'm not gonna open them this time around. Just use your oven light to check on the status of your fries. We're looking for a really nice golden brown exterior, and then we're gonna check out the texture. Last step, as I pull them out of the oven, I wanna work quickly. I'm gonna season them a bit more as soon as they come out, and then we're gonna serve them up. All right, so let's check out our fries. So they've got a little bit of toastiness happening on some of them. That's exactly what we want. We're gonna give them a second. You can hear that texture. You can hear how crispy they are. You hear that? Yes, look at that texture. That's what we want, nice and crispy. You can hear that sizzle, you can hear that crunch. Let's break one open and see what we've got. So you can see I've got some spots that are nice and toasty. This gives us that look almost similar to frying, where we get like a little bit of that toasty edge, but nice and golden brown. Now if I take one of these and I just crack it open, you can see it's really full in the interior. It's fluffy, it's light, it's cooked all the way through, nice and soft. But on the exterior, I get that really good crunch. You can hear that crunch going on. And that's exactly what we want. Now I'm gonna go right into a bowl, just with about half. Let's get them right in. And right away, while they're hot, super important, you wanna add the salt while they're hot to make sure that it really sticks nicely. I'm gonna season up just with a little bit of sea salt. I'm also gonna add some herbs. This is gonna give us a little bit of color that's so nice, and also a little bit of Parmesan. Now this is totally up to you. This is optional, but if I'm making fries, so ready. Now we'll get some of these into a bowl, and then the rest maybe I'm just gonna leave a little bit on the plainer side. I've got some sea salt, and as they cool, you're gonna hear them start to really crisp up nicely, even more. But we salt first while they're hot. A little bit of cracked black pepper. And remember, these seasonings are up to you. You can add any herbs you like, anything you wanna finish them off with is great. Right onto our plate. We're ready to serve them up. So to serve, I've got ketchup. I've got like a spicy aioli going on. I've got this great crisp exterior, tender middle. Let's give them a little bit of a taste. You hear that crunch? They're just so good.